Morning, Bat fans. I went and saw the Batman last night. Before I get too far into this, I'm going to avoid as many spoilers as humanly possible. I After a brief word from this trigger warning, this was my kind of Batman growing up. This was the Batman episodes that I used to rent on VHS all the time. This was my idea of Batman on television, obviously in reruns by this time. Luckily, these are my ideas of the Batman movies, and I'm going somewhere with this. Thank you for your time. We are now beginning our review, already in progress. The Batman was Robert Pattinson's, I think, very first foray into the role of the Dark Knight. It had Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin. Zoe Saldana, I think, is Catwoman. Selena Kyle, and the Riddler was in there somewhere, and as was Commissioner Gordon. Oh yeah, Carmine Falcone was in there too, and I cannot remember who played the last several characters. Nor Alfred, for that matter. Anyway, casting was done fairly well. I think everyone did well in their roles. The Batman was still very much a dark and ominous type of Batman film. A lot like the Christopher Nolan trilogy, where Christian Bale was Batman. In fact, a lot of the elements in The Batman reminded me of Batman Begins, including his having to save the entirety of... Oh! Okay. Let's just say that there's a lot of elements in the Batman that reminded me a lot of Batman Begins. We've been through a lot of Batman actors. Adam West is no longer with us. Michael Keaton was very good Batman for his time. In fact, if they ever make a Batman Beyond movie, he could make a good elderly Bruce Wayne and just reprise that role. Val Kilmer, George Clooney are barely worth talking about. No. Batman Returns, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever just basically never existed. And in chronological order of non-existence was Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin. My apologies. We move on into the 2000s and the Christopher Nolan trilogy. Christian Bale was a good Batman. We move on into the theatrical release of Justice League or of Batman vs. Superman. Ben Affleck, again, never happened. Not a good Batman. It never happened. Robert Pattinson can fall. Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne looked a little off, but in the role of Batman, it did happen. I walked into that movie honestly hoping that Edward Cullen wasn't about to glow as the Dark Knight or whatever it was he did in those movies. No, just no. Of course that never happened. Robert Pattinson can very well be a versatile actor. If he wants to be. If he so chooses. Fair warning, the movie is 2 hours and 58 minutes long. Anyone who's seen an Avengers movie or any Marvel movie these past couple of years knows that they like to be as long-winded as possible. And as another superhero movie, yes, there were scenes that could have been cut. I was not glued to my theater seat. I missed some stuff in that 3 hours. There is something of an end credits scene, but it is not necessarily worth waiting for. The big dramatic reveal that looks like a mid-credit scene happens just before the credits begin. Happens somewhere before the credits begin to roll. As part of the film itself. My take. I'm gonna give this movie a solid 8 Batarangs out of 10. And I will be ready to see it again next weekend, providing that I'm going with friends. So if you can find the Batman playing locally somewhere, just understand that it is 2 hours and 58 minutes long. Yes, there were some things that could have been cut, or at least shortened. Anytime the Robert Pattinson voiceover starts droning like this, it feels like that 3 hours is passing in that scene alone. They have that kind of droning voiceover toward the start of the movie and toward the end of it. And it does kind of slow the flow of the movie a lot. There is a lot in the beginning that really slowed the movie down before it could catch up, before it could really gain its momentum. Hence, a solid 8 out of 10 Batarangs. Go see it for yourself. Maybe it's for you, maybe it isn't. I know there has been some griping from some comic book fans about kind of race swapping Catwoman and Commissioner Gordon, but it's barely worth mentioning. What was her name again? Zoe Saldana, I think it was. Hang on, I gotta look this up. Alright, sorry, my fault. Zoe Kravitz was Catwoman. Did an outstanding job in the role, I thought. As long as I'm looking at this, Jeffrey Wright was a good Commissioner Gordon. John Turturro was Falcone, actually. Huh. I used to see Turturro only in comedy roles. Only in Adam Sandler movies. Well, he did a good job, though. And, Paul Dano, or I don't know how you'd pronounce it. Yeah, he was passable as the Riddler. This spoiler cannot be avoided. We're talking about a Riddler who was very much who was basically a social justice warrior and an internet provocateur, trying to rile up Gotham City into his corner, to his cause. We're dealing with his types of accusations of the Wayne family that were wherein Thomas Wayne is portrayed, is described as somewhat his portrayal in the Joker. More heartless than he really probably was. Okay. Anyway. Well, that's it. Those are spoilers. Check out The Batman if you get a chance. Go with friends and family. Be prepared for it to actually run 3 hours. And at times, really, really feel like it. It's not nearly as bad as The Eternals was, and as for its slow start, it doesn't take nearly as long to actually gain momentum and become interesting as Black Widow took. Alright. DC Cinematic Universe has a long way to go to catch up to Marvel as far as quality films. The Batman can only help. Thanks for your time.